Hello again. Today I'm going to share with you my dryer sheet caddis pattern. It uses just a few materials, is relatively easy to tie, and it does catch fish. A while back I found a dryer sheet stuck to one of my shirts, and like every other creative fly tyer out there, I began to imagine how I could use that to tie flies. Many dryer sheets are non-woven polyester. The used ones, those that have been through the dryer, are light and durable. They're typically white though, so I came up with the idea to staple them down and spray them with various colors of spray paint so that they match the wings on different bugs. So here I have one that's sprayed dark gray. You can see some of the original white ones there. I'm going to tie this on a size 14 dry fly hook. A little larger. I think the caddis in my area tend to run size 16 or 18, but I'll do a 14 so it shows up well on camera. So here I am, again still liking that loon bobbin, and an 8/0 black thread. I started the thread about 1/3 of the way back from the hook eye. So I'll snip off the end and dress the shank. And I like to stop somewhere between the hook point and the barb. But you'll see I work the thread back forward in front of the point, and you'll see why. I want to create a taper, actually a reverse taper here. Caddisflies, especially the larger ones, they get to be a little bigger at the back of the abdomen and taper smaller as you go forward, and then they kind of level out. So here I'm using super fine dubbing, tying this one in black. And again, all this is the black. I'm not sure that's the most prevalent caddis we have here in our area, but it should show up well on camera. If I were trying to match something on the stream, I might make it kind of a medium tan or maybe even a little olivey tint, and then even the wing would be lighter, probably more on the tan side as well. So I wrapped from in front of the point back, and I'm coming back forward. Need a little more dubbing. Have to keep the dubbing noodle short to stay between the camera and the hook. And that super fine's a long staple dubbing, so I do fight that a little bit. It probably would benefit me to just, once I pull some out, to kind of snip it shorter. But wasn't exactly satisfied with the shape or the taper that I'm getting there, so we'll back it up. You know, it's your fly. You can back it up and make sure you get it the way you want it. So that looks pretty good to me. We'll add a little more dubbing. I just mentioned that it was long stapled, and then I saw a short piece go on there, so we'll get that out of the way. Not sure I like that. And make another noodle that's about 3 inches long and work my way back to where we left off. And finish tapering it forward. And this is where you do want to build up a little bit of an underbody here. Especially when you're tying in a wing, if you tie it in against the shoulder, or you tie it in where it's just bare hook shank, or it's real thin, it'll cock the wing up in the air possibly, or it just makes that whole process a lot harder. So I went a little forward of where I want to tie the wing in. I'm back to about that 1/3 spot on the hook, and we have a little extra dubbing. I'll snip it out. So there you can see I have about a 1-inch square of that painted dryer sheet, and we're going to fold it in half to make a tent wing. And then if you've worked with any kind of wing material, or if you've tried the tape wing caddis, you'll know that you want to cut a long sloping angle toward the front And here you see I'll flip it around so I can cut the angles at the back end to approximate the shape of a caddis wing. We'll flip it one more time and we'll take that little point off the bottom corner there. You see now it's starting to look like a caddis wing. So I kind of want to keep that about the size of the gap of the hook, no bigger. I'm going to come back in and take a little more off and angle it a little more. You don't want to leave it too thick where you're going to tie it in. If it wraps much beyond halfway around the hook, it starts to wrinkle up or kick way up in the air or something. So I trimmed it there a little bit. And that should be fine. Put a few wraps on that to hold it down, fight with the tip a little bit. We'll come back and snip that tip out of the way here in a second. Okay, so the wing's in place. And we snip the waist, the tip off of the wing. And then I'm going to make a dubbing loop here. And that's how we're going to build the thorax on this fly. Body, head, legs, and everything pretty much come out of that one loop. And we're going to add a whip or two here just so that we can, nothing comes loose and we can potentially use the bobbin cradle, kind of hold the thread and the bobbin out of the way. So there you see a nice little piece of super fine dubbing. I've laid some of those. Those are dark compared on hair, deer hair that I've laid across the top. Probably about a dozen or so, 15. And if you have a clip, that's a nice way to transfer them into the dubbing loop. If you don't have a clip, I pick them up with my fingers or a piece of tweezer, or a pair of tweezers, and they stick together pretty well. That super fine seems to stick to everything. So that's both good and a bad thing. So they're in the loop. And we'll spread them out a little bit and give them a twist. Got my little shepherd's crook out of the shot just below what you see there. And we'll give it a few turns. The superfine tends to twist the hair up a little bit, so I'll pick those out. I'll probably stop here and pick those out, and there I kind of cut ahead to it. I picked those hairs loose and finished wrapping, and I think in our editing we lost a wrap or two in the process. But now we're back up by the head. So that superfine kind of built a little ball. The hairs are sticking out essentially in all directions, which is exactly what we want. We put in a couple of wraps to hold the loop in place, and we can trim off the excess there, get it out of the way. So here I just kind of pull everything back and wrap back a little bit over top of it, start maybe about an eye length or so, and it starts to build that little head. And then here you see I'm adding in a couple of moose hairs. You can use one of many fibers or two of many fibers to be antenna, but I don't know if those are antenna. I've heard them called horns, but I'm going to put a couple on this fly just for looks and give that a couple of wraps. And that's just about it. We're going to whip finish here. I'm not sure why I got away there. It kind of went backwards and came back into it, but we put 3 whips on it. I like to keep the thread on top when I pull it out because that's probably going to be where I put a little dab of head cement later. So, trim off the thread. Now you say, what are we going to do with all that deer hair sticking out? So I'm going to make sure I pull enough of it down. I want what we pull down, I want it to look like legs and the junk that's usually hanging out the bottom of the bug. And then we'll trim the top off. And I caught that one with the whip finisher, and it's of course going the wrong way. I'll fight it a little bit here, but I'll win in the end, you'll see. I'll pull the hair down. I'm going to cut it off about even with the hook point. A little more trimming, anything that's still long. And get everything facing backwards. And here I snip off that crazy hair, and I'm going to declare victory. And then there's just a little primping to do. So you can see the legs are kind of bent back. And I use a fingernail to put a little curl in the moose hair. Here I stopped to show you how I bent those legs back. So I kind of hook them in the tweezer and give them a little bend. The fish will help chew them up and make them look wrinkly and look like legs too. But there you have it. Have the legs kind of facing back. Lots of superfine there in the area. Put on some good fly dressing of your choice, and makes a pretty good imitation. So thanks for hanging in there, and look me up on Amazon if you want to learn a little more about me. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe.